The Bold and the Beautiful. Wedding day shocker. Hope's world shatters as Liam is rushed to surgery with a life-threatening brain tumor. The wedding day was supposed to be perfect. Hope Logan, dressed in white, surrounded by flowers and family, stood ready to reclaim her future with Liam Spencer, a future built on forgiveness, redemption, and the dream of a whole family for their daughter, Beth. After months of turmoil, mistakes, confessions, and second chances, this was meant to be the day that sealed their promise to start over. But as the Bold and the Beautiful has proven time and time again, peace never comes easily in this world. And this time, tragedy struck with the force of a lightning bolt, changing everything in one devastating instant. The ceremony had just begun. Hope's eyes met Liam's across the aisle. The guests had risen. Brooke smiled, Ridge nodded with pride, and Beth beamed with innocent joy. Then, just as the vows were about to be spoken, the doors of the chapel flew open with a crash. Gasps filled the room. All heads turned, and there stood Dr. Bridget Forrester, panic in her eyes, urgency in her voice, shouting words that would silence the entire room and shatter the day beyond repair. Liam needs surgery immediately. Confusion rippled through the guests. Hope's brow furrowed. Her voice trembled as she asked the question everyone was thinking. "What are you talking about?" Bridget's eyes found Hope's, filled with regret and fear. Liam came to the hospital earlier this week complaining of severe headaches. She explained breathlessly. "We ran a scan, but there was a mix-up. I accidentally gave him the wrong results. His scan was switched with another patient's. I just found the real file. Liam has a brain tumor, a large one. It's pressing dangerously on critical areas. If we don't operate right now, he could die." The silence that followed was suffocating. Hope's bouquet slipped from her hands. Her knees buckled. Tears rushed down her cheeks as she whispered Liam's name. Panic overtook the room. Steffi stood frozen. Brooke rushed to Hope's side. Bill Spencer, Liam's father, moved fast, demanding more answers from Bridget. But there was no time, no explanations, no delays. Liam, who had begun to feel weak and lightheaded only moments earlier, now struggled to stay upright. The color drained from his face as reality set in. He didn't collapse, but he was close. The headaches he had dismissed, the confusion and occasional dizziness, it all made sense now. The room spun. Hope clutched his arm, trembling. "You're going to be okay," she kept repeating, even as she clearly didn't believe it herself. The wedding was over. No rings, no vows, no kiss. Only sirens in the distance, and Bridget calling ahead to the hospital to prepare an operating room. Liam was rushed out of the venue and loaded into an ambulance as Hope climbed in beside him, holding his hand like it was the only thing anchoring her to the world. The emergency surgery would be risky, very risky. The tumor, as Bridget explained en route, was in a sensitive location. Removing it could save Liam's life, but could also threaten his memory, mobility, or worse. There were no guarantees, and there was no time. Hope's world collapsed in those moments. All the plans, all the dreams of a renewed life, all the love she had fought to reclaim, now hung by the thinnest thread. She thought she'd been through the worst betrayal, heartbreak, separation, but nothing could prepare her for this. The possibility of losing Liam not emotionally, but physically, completely, forever. At the hospital, chaos erupted as staff rushed Liam into surgery. Hope was left standing in the hallway, still in her wedding dress, makeup streaked with tears, surrounded by family members just as stunned and terrified as she was. Brooke held her daughter tightly. Ridge paced. Bill made frantic calls to top neurosurgeons, but no one could offer assurance. Bridget, racked with guilt, stayed by Hope's side. "I'm so sorry," she said through her own tears. "This is my fault. I should have double-checked the results. I should have," but Hope stopped her. "Just save him," she whispered. "Just save my husband." In the operating room, surgeons worked quickly, delicately, every move precise and calculated. Time was not on their side. As Hope waited outside, she clutched Liam's ring in her hand, staring at the symbol of a future now threatened by a fate she couldn't control. Back in the chapel, guests had either left or gathered quietly in shock. The decorations remained, the cake untouched. The music had stopped. The wedding was paused, but the danger was very, very real. Steffi, visibly shaken, offered her support to Hope despite the complex history between them. Even Thomas, recently returned from Paris and still grappling with his own unresolved feelings for Hope, stayed present. Because whatever tension existed, nothing compared to the fear of losing Liam. As the hours ticked by, the waiting grew unbearable. Hope replayed every moment, every argument, every laugh, every kiss. She remembered the first time Liam held Beth, the first time he told her he loved her, and the promises they made long before this day. And now, with nothing but hope and a silent hallway to cling to, all she could do was wait. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Bridget emerged from the operating room. Her expression was unreadable. For a moment, time stood still again. Hope stood. Her lips trembled. "Is here?" Bridget nodded. "He made it through surgery. He's stable. We got the tumor." The flood of relief hit like a tidal wave. Hope collapsed into Brooke's arms. But Bridget wasn't finished. "There's still a long road ahead," she warned. "There may be complications. Memory loss? Motor function issues. We won't know the full outcome until he wakes up. But right now he's alive, and that was enough. For now." Hope was allowed to see Liam in recovery. Tubes, machines, the hum of monitors, it was a painful sight. But he was breathing. He was still here. She took his hand and whispered through tears, "You're not going anywhere. We still have a wedding to finish." But even as Liam slept, the weight of what had happened and what still might come hung over everyone. The question wasn't just whether Liam would recover physically, but how this brush with death would change him. Would he remember everything? Would he be the same man? Would he still want the same life? And deeper still, would Hope be able to move forward, knowing how close she came to losing him and how fragile love truly is? This was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, it became a nightmare. And while Liam survived surgery, the true test begins now. With recovery ahead, with trauma unprocessed, and with emotions raw, nothing will ever be the same. The wedding may have been postponed, but fate has thrown this couple into a new chapter, one defined not by flowers and vows, but by resilience, survival, and the strength of love under fire. And fans of the bold and the beautiful know the drama is far from over. Will Liam wake up the same man? Will the trauma change how he feels about Hope or Steffi? Will Thomas see this as a second chance with Hope? Will Bridget's mistake cost her more than her reputation? Will Sheila, watching from the shadows, find a way to exploit the chaos? And will Hope, holding onto her love with trembling hands, finally get the happy ending she deserves? One thing is certain, nothing on the bold and the beautiful will ever be the same again. Stay tuned. The fallout is just beginning. The bold and the beautiful. Liam dies on the table, Hope's heart shatters, and a sinister plot emerges behind Bridget's deadly betrayal. Liam Spencer didn't wake up. As the heart monitor flatlined in the operating room and a rush of panicked nurses crowded around the table, it became horrifyingly clear he was gone. One moment he was stable. The next, blood flooded his brain in a sudden, catastrophic hemorrhage. The surgical team tried to stop it. They worked frantically, hands moving in a blur, adrenaline rising, but within minutes, it was over. Liam Spencer was declared dead. Hope never got to say goodbye. Outside the operating room, time froze. Bridget emerged, face pale, eyes hollow. She didn't say a word at first. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Finally, barely above a whisper, she looked at Hope and delivered the news that would crush her world. "I'm so sorry we lost him." The sound Hope made didn't resemble a scream or a sob. It was something primal, ripped straight from her chest. She collapsed to the floor, screaming Liam's name, her dress soaked with tears. Brooke rushed to her, barely able to hold her own sorrow together. Bill stood frozen in place, fists clenched, staring past everyone as if the world had just split open. Steffi covered her mouth, tears falling freely. Thomas, watching from a distance, looked like someone had punched the air from his lungs. Liam was dead, and everything changed. The hospital room that was supposed to be his recovery chamber became a morgue. The wedding day transformed into a funeral. Beth, too young to understand, asked when her daddy would wake up. And Hope, grieving, broken, drowning in pain, could barely breathe through the waves of disbelief and loss. But while the family mourned, a darker truth began to flicker beneath the surface one that wouldn't stay hidden for long. It started with a whisper. A nurse at the hospital, shaken and visibly upset, made a quiet phone call in the staff lounge after overhearing something suspicious during the surgery. She said she heard Dr. Bridget Forrester mutter something strange under her breath right before Liam crashed. Something like "it's done." That phone call never reached its intended recipient. The nurse was found hours later in the parking garage unconscious, the victim of a mugging. Her phone was gone. Her memory, she claimed later, was foggy, conveniently foggy, but someone else was listening. Finn, the hospital's rising star doctor and Sheila Carter's estranged son, began reviewing the medical reports out of guilt and professional curiosity. The autopsy report didn't sit right with him. According to the records, the hemorrhage wasn't consistent with a spontaneous rupture. The tissue damage was targeted, controlled. And most alarmingly, the anticoagulant dosage logged in the pre-op file had been tripled without any documented reason. This was no accident. Finn quietly began comparing logs, reviewing Bridget's surgical notes, and watching footage from the hospital's private surgical suite camera only to discover that part of the recording was missing. A full 17-minute blackout during the most critical phase of the operation. When he asked the IT team why, they shrug it off as a glitch, but Finn wasn't buying it. He confronted Bridget privately, gently at first. "There's something wrong with Liam's file," he said. "The dosage, the timing, the tissue trauma. Something doesn't add up." Bridget's response, cold, dismissive. "You're not a neurosurgeon," she snapped. Let it go, but he didn't. He couldn't. And the more he dug, the darker it got. Because then came the biggest shock of all, an anonymous tip delivered to Finn's inbox in the form of a heavily encrypted file. It included internal emails between Bridget and a third party. Emails discussing Liam's upcoming surgery. Emails with one damning phrase repeated over and over. "It has to look like an accident." Finn's heart sank. Someone had ordered Liam's death, and Bridget carried it out. But who would want Liam dead? Who had motives strong enough to orchestrate a murder in the middle of a wedding day on hospital grounds using a trusted Forrester surgeon? The list wasn't long. Bill Spencer, devastated by the death of his son, started asking questions too. And when he pulled Bridget aside after the funeral, he saw something flicker in her eyes: panic, guilt, but also defiance. She was hiding something. But Bill knew one thing for sure. This wasn't a mistake. Someone had turned the ceremony into an execution. The pieces began to fall into place, and all roads led to a name few wanted to speak out loud. Sheila Carter, the woman with a blood-stained past. The woman who had manipulated, lied, and killed to get what she wanted. The woman who hated Liam for his influence on Steffi. The woman who had everything to gain by wiping him off the board, especially if it meant protecting Luna's secret and removing Liam from Hope's life permanently. But did Sheila act alone? Or was someone else behind this? There were whispers of a deeper conspiracy. Money moved through offshore accounts. Payments linked not to Sheila directly, but to a shadow entity known only to Bridget and one other person. Finn kept digging. And then came the most terrifying realization of all. Bridget wasn't coerced. She was paid. And whoever paid her had motive beyond personal vendetta. This was about power, control, access. Was it Thomas? Seeking revenge. Steffi, protecting her family's legacy. Or could it be someone from Liam's past, a corporate rival looking to destabilize Spencer Publications by taking out its heir? The theories spiraled, but the truth remained. Liam Spencer didn't have to die. He could have lived, and the woman entrusted to save him chose not to. Hope, still lost in grief, remained unaware of the storm building beneath her feet. But it wouldn't stay buried for long, because as Finn gathered evidence, as Bill quietly launched his own private investigation, and as the nurse who was silenced finally began to recover her memory, the truth was coming. And when Hope learns that her husband was murdered not lost in a tragic accident, but deliberately executed on the very day they were to begin their new life together, there will be no peace, only vengeance. And in a town where secrets don't stay buried and the dead never rest quietly, the war for justice is just beginning. Stay tuned, because the bold and the beautiful has just crossed a line it can never walk back from. And the fallout will consume everyone.